Hi, I've done a whole lot of reading this year, 26 books so far, and a lot of them are long and deep and dense. I calculated the hit rate for these books and found that I only really liked about 30% of them. Most of them are miserable and boring. And so I picked up Flights by Olga Tokarczuk, having heard a lot of really good things about it, but not super hopeful. She's a Nobel Prize winner, and the last two Nobel winners I read were just atrocious. This is The Vegetarian by Kang, and it was just emotional and violent porn. It was just gross and disturbing. I didn't enjoy reading this whatsoever. John Fosse's Septology, I heard people just raving about, and it's also a Fitzcarraldo edition. Ooh, it's so beautiful. I love the look of these books, but I could only maybe get like 100 pages into this before I had to put it away because it was just so depressing. So here with Flights, we have both a Nobel laureate and a Fitzcarraldo, and my God, this is such a masterpiece. So this book does something that I almost never see. It's something that I'm always looking for, and I'm always asking ChatGPT to give me more of it. But authors who do this well are very few and far between. This book is genuinely metamodern. And to me, that means there's no hero, there's no villain, there's no single plot. Instead, imagine looking at a constellation. You're not focusing on one star of the show. You're seeing how these points of light connect and create something bigger. And even though metamodernism is more than just this blurring between good and evil, this book has many elements of metamodernism to it. So this is Flights. It's all fragments and stories, all really short, and just some small observations. And you don't follow this book as much as you kind of feel it. Where the fuck did that go? Take, for example, this passage here. That means that it is impossible to build a consistent cause and effect course of argument or a narrative with events that succeed each other casuistically and follow from each other. That would merely be an approximation, in the same way that an approximation of the Earth gives us a grid of latitude and longitude, when in reality, in order to reflect our experience more accurately, it would be necessary instead to assemble a whole out of pieces more or less the same size, placed concentrically on the same surface. Constellation, not sequencing, carries truth. That's awesome. The idea here is we don't get truth from logical arguments of if this, then that. Logic isn't really the language that anybody is speaking online anymore. Everybody has their own logic and their own strong convictions, and no one could really be convinced. I'm sure you might have noticed this as well. Our only option now, instead of trying to prove each other wrong and change their minds, is to hold space for all of the pieces and to see what emerges from that. One of the pieces of this book follows a mother with her disabled child and an army veteran husband. And her situation is just so utterly depressing and hopeless. So she flees home for a few days and hangs out with a homeless woman and sleeps on the streets just for a sense of getting away from an unwinnable situation. It's so sad. And I know that I complained about miserable books before, but this is just a small section of it. What happens though is that the tone really shifts at the end when they're both arrested and the homeless woman warns the other woman about the police. You are only safe in this world when you sway. Where the fuck did that go? Sway. Go on. Move. That's the only way to get away from him. He who rules the world has no power over movement and knows that our body in motion is holy, and only then can you escape him. He reigns over all that is still and frozen, everything that's passive and inert. So go, sway, walk, run, take flight, because the second you forget and stand still, his massive hands will seize you and turn you into just a puppet, and you'll be enveloped in his breath, stinking of smoke and fumes and the big rubbish dumps outside of town. My God, this goes on for 3 pages. It is just so booming and powerful and profound. It's so intense and prophetic and apocalyptic. And just, I have so many passages in this book that are just dog-eared and underlined. And every time I go back to them, and I've gone back to this book a lot since I finished it, I still feel a sense of magic and wow. This is really a once-in-a-lifetime kind of book. And that passage really hit me because I've been thinking a lot about movement and rootlessness. I really given up any sense of nationalism. I don't serve any country as much as I kind of serve the technological cloud. I don't really identify as either of my passports. I'm not really Canadian, I'm not really Polish, and I'm not Portuguese, even though I live in Lisbon. I've been rootless and swaying for most of my life. And so this idea of constellations really resonates with me. I started making YouTube videos in 2008, and I told a whole lot of my story for a very long time. In 2020, with my divorce, that story ceased to be told. The narrative structure just didn't hold up anymore. The person I presented as on camera didn't feel like the person I'd become. I tried to add some more to the story, but my rapid and ever-changing self didn't really keep up. In such a period of growth and change, I was a new person by the time the ink dried on the chapter that I was writing. My God, that's so poetic and cheesy. Did I say that unironically? I sure did. And so the chapters of my change grew few and far, and the time between them really faded, as did the hope of me ever really picking up again. I really alienated my viewers, and I left them with just about no story, no redemption arc, but just the kind of unhappily ever after. And in that whole time, I was really caught up thinking about the story that needed an arc, a beginning, a middle, and an end. What's the resolution? What is the redemption arc for a narcissist? Is there a redemption arc for narcissists? It doesn't seem like that online. But Flight suggests something different. Maybe we're constellations. We are different parts of ourselves. We have different identities. Some stars in us shine brighter than the others. There's no end to the constellation. It's just the wider that you look at the night sky, the more beautiful the image becomes. And so maybe the story of our lives is more constellation and not causation. Truth doesn't move from point A to point B. There's no beginning, middle, and end. Everything just emerges from a cluster of equally held parts, where time isn't really the core measure. What if our stories don't have to exist in time? Constellation narration focuses on the resolution of the scene rather than the resolution of the event. One star is nice, a constellation is pretty, a galaxy is gorgeous, and the night sky in a dark zone is awe-inspiring. And so constellations escape this temporality and they enter presence. They enter the here and the now. So yeah, Flights by Olga Tokarczuk. It's one of the most beautiful books I've read in a very long time, and I highly recommend it. So if you're tired of reading traditional narratives, and if you want something that invites you to see the whole rather than just to follow one thread, read this book. It's so good. And if you like this review, subscribe either here or over on Substack, where I write a whole lot more. I am currently ripping through The Dispossessed by Ursula K. Le Guin? I'm not sure. Never said her name out loud. It's pretty good so far. It's not a depressing Nobel Prize winner, at least. So that's great. Hooray. And so if you've read this, I'd be happy to chat with you. Thanks for watching.